Okay, this is lesson 3 of our drawing class. And last week we were a bit technical.
Sorry, I don't hear you. I don't hear you as well. Are you further away? This is Steve.
Let me move the monitor closer. I'm not covering a microphone. No. Okay, Is that any better? Is anyone else having trouble hearing me? Shake your heads if you are.
I hear you fine.
Okay. All right. Is that better, Steve? Wait a minute. Okay. All right. Well, last week we got kind of technical with our light and shadow. And I don't want every week to be heavy on the mechanics of drawing because this is supposed to be fun and I don't want to lose you by making things too technical. So tonight I'm going to offset all the technicality of last week and I want to talk about a drawing method that is more intuitive rather than worrying about where the light is coming from and the cast shadow and the object shadow and all that. Have you heard about a drawing method called Zentangle? And it is a method of drawing that was developed as an art therapy. And it kind of gets you in your zone by repetitive mark making. And that's what drawing is. It's mark making. Now, there are certain patterns. Okay, here comes Margaret. Okay, come on in, Margaret. Okay, great. Okay. There are certain patterns that have been developed for Zentangle, but a lot of the fun of it is making up your own. And I'm going to get you started in some preliminaries here. When I was looking up the definition and the roots of Zentangle, some of the things that I was reading they were a little counterintuitive, where they were saying you must use a 3.5-inch square and you must be able to turn the paper at a 90-degree angle. So a lot of musts, a lot of rules. And then delving further into it, I realized that it is part of the structure of the practice to have you make repeated gestures and mark making, and then within the repetition you find a groove and you kind of like zone out. It is meditation. It is not as simple as doodling, because doodling implies mindlessness, where Zentangle is more mindfulness. Yeah. So I'm going to put up an example of a piece of artwork that was done with Zentangle, and then I want to start showing you some of the techniques and the pattern building that we get into when we're doing something like that. So I'm going to take off the screen share now that everybody got a glimpse of it. It's mostly done in black and white. You can introduce color, but in our drawing practice, we're pretty much using black and white, black mark making tools on white paper. I'm going to be doing it jumbo size here with a big fat magic marker Sharpie thing. Pull this a little closer. But you can do it by making squares on your paper. And you can get started by, when they say a 3.5-inch square, I would imagine it would be like the width of your hand, but I can get a couple squares up here just to get it going. Because we're going to be doing different patterns. I'm going to be teaching you patterns. And I will also be sending you in a follow-up email different worksheets and step-by-steps, like this kind of thing that we're going to build now. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So we have a square. And in the middle of our square, we're going to like make a little baby square right in the middle. And maybe I need to use a thicker marker. Looking at the screen. Yeah. So now what we're going to do from the corner, let me make this bigger because I want you to be able to see this. From the corner of the little square in the middle of your big square, you're going to be making an arcing line, not quite as severe as the letter C, but just one arcing line from one corner to the other. Just like that, from one corner to the other. And then what you'll do is make from the other corner to the other corner, make that same arcing move to the lower corner. And now we're going to start filling it in with lines that are like parallel, but where they meet at the baby square in the middle, they're going to be much denser and it's going to appear much blacker. So I'm just filling in all those lines so it looks like that. So I suppose you could do it with straight lines, but it's much more interesting if you do it with an arced line. Now you're going to turn your paper 90 degrees because the turning of the paper is all part of the ritual. And we're going to do it from this corner down here. We're going to repeat that process. So now we're going to fill in, and all these have names. I forget which name this has, but all of these patterns have names. And then I filled it in just like I did the first time. And now I'm going to turn my paper 90 degrees again. And do the same thing from the little corner in the middle to the big corner on the outside, an arcing move. And then so where the lines approach the larger outside square, they're going to be further apart and they converge when they go into the middle. And that gives it a sense of depth. And then you'll turn your paper one more time and follow what we did on the other three sides. Now mine isn't quite a square, it's more of a rectangle, but I think you get the point of the method. And then you can always go back in later and put, maybe like a little thinner line in between them, just to make it a little more dense in the middle. Where I'm taking my thinner line. Many people do this with a fine point, like a super fine Sharpie. Let's see, and I just filled in with some lines near the middle. And that's our first pattern. That was easy. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next pattern I have for you. And this one, we're going to take our square and this way to start, so it's close to me. Okay, I'm going to outline this more. And what we'll do is make like a tic-tac-toe or a hashtag. So I'm going to put 2 lines that way, dividing it into thirds. And 2 lines this way, dividing it into thirds. So I've got 9 little blocks. So now what I'm going to do in my first row here on the left, oh, is it on the right? I'm not going to even mention directions. I don't know if the video is flipping. You're going to make a diagonal line from the upper left of each of the 3 on the far left. We're going to make a diagonal line from the top left to the bottom right. Just like that. This one's a little thin. Just like that. Boom, boom, boom. Diagonal. Now, this row in the middle, we're going to go from the bottom up. So it's going to look like this. Like that. And then on the last column on the right, we go from the upper corner to the lower corner again. So you've got something looks like this. So now we're going to go back to our row over here. And now that we have 6 triangles, and the triangles, like there's 3 on the left and 3 on the right. On one side, it doesn't matter which side, whether it's these or these. I'm going to do it on this one. I'm going to make vertical lines filling in that triangle. Just like that. And then I'm going to skip over and do the middle column. I'm going to do the same thing. And then I'll go to the other column and do the same thing. Oh, I got to ask you guys to mute yourselves, please. Okay, so now I've got my vertical lines. Now I'm going to turn my paper. And I'm going to fill in the white triangles with lines that are perpendicular to the ones I made before. So it will look like this. So I'm filling in the leftover white triangles with lines that are perpendicular or at right angles to the other triangles in that row. And you'll wind up with this kind of effect, like that. And depending on how thick and thin you make your lines, you can use a variety of width of markers or pencils. some of the things they say about Zentangling is you're not supposed to use a ruler and you're not supposed to use an eraser. It's just supposed to like flow out of you and just come with more and more practice. So now I'm going to show you another pattern. And don't stress if you're not getting it, because I'm going to send you all the worksheets step by step so you can practice during the week. I'm also going to be sending in the follow-up email a booklet that I got online about Zentangling. So you'll get all of that if you're, if the step-by-step is going, if it's too fast for you right now, but don't stress. That's supposed to be the opposite of stress. This is supposed to be a de-stressor, to just approach a drawing practice. And like many things in life, the repetition of the practice does put you on a groove. I'm sure, like it's like a runner's high or something when you establish a rhythm of something. Okay, so our next box, we're going to divide it in 4. Just like that, almost like a rudimentary window pane. And then within that window pane, we're going to just make a little arced scallop in each box. See, like I did there, just like an arced line this way. And then I'm going to do all 4 of those little boxes with these curved lines from corner to corner. So it winds up looking like that. So you've got all those 4 boxes with their little curved inner lines. Now, in the middle of each one of those 4 squares, you're going to put like a polka dot or a dot, and that's your center point. Okay, so now my next mark is I'm going to go from the corner, and it's not going to be a straight line to the dot in the middle. It's going to be like a curved line. Like it's hooking around the dot. See what I did there? So it's hooking around the dot. So it's going to go from the corner, the little corner, and then it's going to come around and hook around the other side of the dot like that. So you've got that happening in the middle. So it's almost like making a big comma. So I'm going to go from the corner and hook around my middle dot and then do it on the bottom like that. Okay, so then it should look like that. So now I'm going to turn my paper and I'm going to do it on the other corners, but I'm going to let me lower my, maybe I can just, yeah, that's better. I'm going to do it and the other corners. So from here, I'm going to come and hook there, and there, I'm going to come hook there. So again, we're making a repetitive stroke. And don't worry if you think You did it wrong. You have the wrong placement of the lines. Even though some of these are established patterns in the Zentangle world that you can always riff off of them. Don't think of, oh, I made a mistake, I have to start over. No, no, no. Just keep drawing. Just keep drawing. No stress. Okay, so now what we're going to do is fill in one of those, almost like the triangle area created by that, with more parallel lines like that. I'm gonna do that in the upper right of each of those little quad areas. And you can see how just adding a few lines gives you like a sense of shape or depth. You know, it's got like dimension going on now. Okay, so those, now I'm going to turn my paper, and well, I don't have to turn, well, maybe it'll be better for you if I do. Okay, and now I'm just going to go in and follow that line again. So you're going to be filling in those little sections with lines that are perpendicular, but following the curvature of those kind of like little triangles we created. And you have to think about it. I mean, I have to check myself and say, okay, wait a minute, perpendicular, and like bring my head to it. This is just not mindless doodling. I seriously have to concentrate to think about which directions my lines are going to go in. So now this, I'm going to follow that line of that curve and continue to fill in my little triangles there. And this will go this way. Right, and then this will go this way. So I really have to bring some presence to it and just not randomly make marks. This is intentional. Okay, so now you have a design that looks like that. Okay, now I'm going to have another square. We'll do another design. How am I doing for time? Oh, good. Okay. Okay. This time, we're going to make some diagonal lines going through our square. Let me define the perimeter a little better. So I'm going to be making two parallel lines kind of close to each other, like that. And then I'm going to leave a gap, you know, like a sizable gap. And then you're going to do that again. So let me show you what I mean. And, you know, don't worry, no rulers, no, you know, this is all eyeballing, no measuring. So you're going to wind up with something that looks like that. Okay, So now within the fat stripes, the wide area, and I'm going to start in the middle to show you what I mean. We're going to make like a zigzag pattern. Zigzag, zigzag, zig. Like that. And then you're not going to do anything with the skinny stripes, but you're going to go to the next big wide stripe and do the same thing. And the points don't have to match up. You know, you're going to just do some zigzags in the fat stripes. So then when you're done, it should look something like that. So you made your diagonal lines with a gap. And then in the big gap, you did some zigzag lines. So now we're going to go back and fill in like we did before with lines that change direction. So these will go one way and the ones next to it will go another way. So we're doing that perpendicular line thing again. And you're going to fill in the triangles created by your zigzag. So your big fat stripes will look like that. And you might find that you're establishing a rhythm. I seem to be working maybe 5 stripes with each, triangle, maybe 4. Well, some of them are fatter than others, but you'll see that you're establishing a rhythm now with your mark making. Okay, and now I got my last section here. And then when you're done, it should look something like that. Now this is almost has like a basket weave pattern to it. You could do that again and used curved lines and you'll get a whole other effect. You'll get an effect like that. That has more like a fern or organic feel to it. Okay, so I have to flip the page and make some new boxes because I have a couple more patterns I want to show you. And you can see now how you can incorporate these into, you could make even like a patchwork quilt of different patterns. Markers bleed through. I should put something. Okay, so let me go on to another square. Okay. In this square, we are going to be making diagonal lines again, and they're going to be a little curve. Let me show you what I mean. The one we did last time, they were straight. This time, how many can I fit across? So see how they're kind of arced like that. I'm going to turn my paper. Oh, and the other thing about the Zentangle, they say that you should be, it should not have an orientation like up, top or bottom, that you should be able to appreciate it at any angle. And that's why they encourage you to keep turning your paper. So now I'm going to make those curved lines once again, going the other way. Okay. So now it'll look like that. Now we're going to do that thing again where we make a little arc over the line, like a little scallop. So what I did there, I made a little scallop. And we're going to do that on every line. A little scallop. And I'm just working on the left side of the line. Then I'll turn my paper and do it again. And I'm going to do it on all four sides of the squares, those little squares that those intersecting lines created. And I gotta do it on that side. I'm not turn it so much. Okay. So then when you do all your scallops, you wind up with something like this. And you can go back in and accentuate the intersection by doing like a big dot there if you want. At the point where all of these lines converge at the corners. There you go. It almost has a floral appeal, or maybe even a tufted pillow. But the lines, the curved lines, give it a sense of depth and a sense of volume. Okay, let's see what else we have. Oh, I want to show you a popular one. This is a basket weave. So I'm going to make another square. And it could even be used if you are working on a basket. You know, if you're sketching a basket, you can think about how to create the basket weave. So what you're going to do is make inside your bigger square, you're going to make 4 little squares across and 4 down. So like 1, 2, 3, 4. See, mine aren't exactly even. I don't care. You know, this is practice. I'm not measuring, I'm eyeballing. And you're going to make 4 more under it. Just like, you know, they don't have to be perfect squares. They could be dots. You're just making marks. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now it kind of looks like that. I've got those 16 little suggestions of a square inside my big square. Behave. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start from the outer edge and make a line that goes to the from your frame down to the left side of the square, and then you're going to move it over to the right for the next one down, and then move it over to the left for the next one down, and the right, and then the left. So you're connecting your squares, but with the line that's on each side of that square. So my next row, I'm going to do it where like this is on the outside, like that. And then this will come down and go over and then down and then over and down. So my second row will look like that. So you're just going on the outside of your little squares. And then this will go this way. And then on the other side again, this goes down. And then on the outside, then on the inside. And then I'll connect those last. So you've got something that looks like that. So now I'm going to turn my paper. I'm going to put it on the side. Now this is where I really have to think because this is all about like the over under thing here for the basket weave. So let me see. If I put it this way, maybe my brain will understand it better. All right. Step 3. This. Oh, now I see. Okay. I'm going to make these squares a little bit more, my little baby squares. I'm just going to accentuate them a little more, make them a little bigger, a little bolder. Okay, so that goes that way. So now I'm going to use a couple lines to indicate the weaving, like the one in the middle there. And then that goes over, and then that goes there. And this goes here. So we're trying to establish that over under by alternating our lines. I know, you really have to think about it. My head is exploding here. So then this would go over, yeah, these patterns I chose were purposely like more complicated. The first ones were really easy. Now these next ones are getting a little bit more complicated. I really have to think. Okay, so that would go over, and then that would go under, and that would go under. Yeah, so then that goes over, and that goes under. Okay, so you've got like a woven effect there, and a basket weave that weaves in and out. All right, the next one I want to do is, perhaps you are already familiar with how to suggest stonework or brick, but it's pretty easy. And again, it's kind of, you know, like a rhythm. It's just a little bit mathematical, not really mathematical. You're going to make, I'm going to try and get 4 lines across here, horizontal lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. Got lines going across the page like that. On my top row, I'm going to make vertical lines. Well, every, I don't know, like that. Just so you got a few. They don't have to be totally square like that. The line beneath it, you're going to make your vertical lines in the middle of the lines above it. So I'm placing my next row and I'm going to do it in the third line. In fact, the third line and the first line will probably have their stripes in the same position, because I'm just marking where the middle of the square is, or the rectangle in this case, and drawing a line. So I've got the middle of my square and I'm drawing a line. The middle of the square above it and I'm drawing a line. Middle of the square above it, draw a line. So you've got alternating vertical lines. So these are pretty uniform. If we did something like that, you would think, well, maybe those are cinder blocks or machine-made bricks. A way that you can create a more natural rock wall impression is if you go around your edges and get rid of your sharp corners. And what I mean by that is just going in and randomly rounding and making some irregular marks in the corners, and even altering the shape a little bit. I don't want them all to be the same, because if this is a natural, you know, or a rock wall that you were sketching, that it's got like grout and stuff in between it, in between the rocks. And then if you just go around and soften your corners, you get a more organic shape and it doesn't look so much like a cinder block. And you'll notice if you are outside and want to draw a stone wall, you probably wouldn't do those straight lines like we did. The lines in a stone wall, it might even be individual stones where, you know, things might be very uneven. You know, like if it's in a, they might be like that. They wouldn't be with straight lines. But you can create a more interesting set of shapes if you round your corners and add. I'm just going to take that guy out altogether. So I wound up with something like this once I rounded off my corners. You can also take, I might use a slightly thinner Sharpie here. You can create, again, a little sense of depth by just adding to the bottom of each of your white shapes here, maybe some parallel vertical lines, uneven and not quite uniform, just to suggest a sense of shadow. Because the light, most stone walls are outside and the light source coming from the sky. So the lighter part of the stones would be on the top and the shadow of the stone, the darker part of the stone would be where the light doesn't get to it. This is winding up looking more like a comb, a composition of combs, but there you can get some line quality in there that creates an interesting pattern for effect also. Okay. I do have a fun homework assignment for you for the next week. And that is taking some of the ideas that we've learned tonight on pattern building. And I'm going to send you this handout, but I'm going to show it to you now. You're going to trace your hand on a piece of paper. You know, you're going to trace. I'm doing it big to show you. And then in each finger, you're going to create a different texture. And one of this worksheet I'll be sending you has ideas for different textures. I have to tell you, one of the most fun things I have found is when you make the cactus texture, you just do like some vertical parallel lines, and then every so often you do like a couple little spikes, like a couple V's or X's, and it kind of gives you this suggestion of those, you know, those needles that come out of the cactus. So there's lots of mark making that you can do that affect natural forms. Also, you know, like if you want to make fish scales, you just make a row of U's And then above it, you make another row of views, but you don't want them to perfectly line up. You want to, kind of alternate. So there's lots of things you can do to create patterns that you might find in nature. And I would fill up a sketchbook with just, I guess you could call it mindful doodlings, if that's not an oxymoron. But you'll see this worksheet shows you how to make wood textures, and wood textures are parallel lines that come in and out of each other, but wood textures don't cross each other. You're not going to find when you're drawing wood lines or to affect the wood, you're not going to cross the lines. They're always going to, you might even have a knot in there, but the lines will flow, but they will not cross each other. See? You don't want them to cross each other when you're making wood effects. So I'm going to be sending you all these hints. I hope that this more like leitmotif approach appealed to you, because I don't want to be all mechanical. I thought, I was thinking I got to get into perspective, but I got to find a fun way to teach you perspective instead of something super technical that's, I don't want to lose you. It's not like you're going for an MFA degree here. This is supposed to be fun. So I want to keep it fun for you. If it's not fun, please let me know. Or if you have any suggestions or, like a thumbs up, I like tonight, or wasn't crazy about tonight, please share that with me, because I teach to you. I don't have a set curriculum. This isn't a degree program where I must teach this and I must teach that. I welcome your suggestions as to what you would like to learn. And just, any thoughts, just respond to me in the email that I'll send tomorrow. And does anybody have any questions? Okay. Well, I thank you all so much for showing up tonight and drawing with me. I hope you learned some fun patterns that you found appealing and relaxing to practice. And we'll do it all again next week. Thank you so much. Have a good week.
Thank you.